Okay, so somehow I got on this subject tonight of Generation X versus like all the other generations, because our generation was actually like the most badass, and like I had a horrific childhood. It was very, very traumatic, but had you asked me at the time, I would have been like, no way. Hashtag waterbeds. But like seriously, why don't they make those anymore? My dad only called me son. He never called me by my name. He only ever called me son, like my entire life, even now. He only ever called me son. Both of my parents were entirely drunk, entirely all the time. And like, okay, so I knew this about my mom. I just found out, like in my late 30s, that my dad was drunk every time I saw him. I had no idea. Yeah, I do kind of think like maybe society's coming down pretty hard on like 80's moms. And my mom, like, I could see that shit coming, because she just drank herself to death. The problem is that she spent my entire childhood drinking it. Man, back in the 80's, like, as soon as we woke up, like, we were fucking outside. And, like, I remember just steady being outside, and like I'm thinking about like how hot it is now, and oftentimes I'd be like, I just don't remember it being that hot then. And I'm not sure, maybe if it was, or we just didn't care. Like, we were some badass little motherfuckers. Like, and my mom never, like, they didn't care where we went. We were just like going outside, and like, so like there's this set of parameters, like in both, like, I guess in her head and my head, I don't know, and we both like kind of like agreed to that without saying it. But then as soon as we'd leave, I'd leave, we agreed to it no longer. Like, I would travel literally like across town on my bike, and like it was nothing. So my stepdad was a bodybuilder, and he got into competitions a lot. That shit was weird. Okay, so this is something funny from the 80's, and I never hear anybody talk about it. Even like, I'm not even talking about just like comedians and shit. There's like my friends ever, like, the girl ones that I would go to school with when school would go back into session. And that's this. We had porn on VHS tapes, and our parents were at work every day. So if you think, like, by a certain age, we weren't grouping up at this one's house and that one's house in the neighborhood watching fucking porn on VHS, then, oh, we definitely were. Okay, so one time, my mom's like, let's go to the mall, and I was like, I want to go barefoot, and my mom was like, okay. We used to get whipped with paddles that were named Eddie Murphy Delirious, Eddie Murphy Raw. I don't have to say anything else. Okay, so this one time, well, we did this very, very often, and that's like a play race car drivers. And, like, I was always Shirley Muldowney and shit. But anyway, one time I got the big idea that we needed to make like a finish line. So we went and we stole some rope, because that's what we did. We would just, if we needed gas, we'd just steal it from whoever had gas sitting in a can outside. And anyway, so I put two kids, one on the side of the street and one on the other side of the street, to hold up the rope. Well, of course, I won the race, but they forgot or they didn't know to let go of the rope. So that rope, I was going fast as fuck, and that rope grabbed me by my neck and just pulled me off my bike backwards, and I just landed just flat down on my back after doing like 40 miles an hour. Just got up and shook that shit off, because that's what we did in the 80's. So, like, I loved McDonald's when I was a kid, like everybody else. But, like, I hated when my dad would bring us. I would just, like, not want it, because, like, it never failed. They would say, you want some cheese on that? And he'd be like, yeah, did I fucking ask you if I want some fucking cheese on that? Well, we'll get sad, but we're not going to make a fucking meme about it. My two best friends, Michael and William, were both severely ADHD, but back then there was no H in it. It was just ADD, and all they took was Ritalin. And I would try to get them out before their mom had a chance to get that Ritalin down their throat. And if I didn't make it there in time, then I would just get a Snickers bar and a fucking Dr. Pepper, feed it to both of them, and just wind their asses up. And one time I convinced them it was a good idea to just get a pole and bust out all the windows in the neighbor next door to my mom's house. Because nobody lives there. They use the house like as a storage place. We would always go in and out the windows or whatever. But I decided one day that those windows needed to be gone. And they got in so much trouble, and I didn't. Like this one time, it was right near Christmas, and my mom had some people over, and there was presents under the tree, and I was harassing her about opening them because I knew what they were because of the shape of the packages. I got 2 tapes in a jam box, and I'm like, this is 1984, by the way, because my tapes were Prince of the Revolution, Purple Rain, and Cyndi Lauper. She's so unusual. Anyway, I was bugging her to open presents, so she let me open the tapes. Well, then that just got me on one even more, and I'm like, how am I supposed to play the tapes? And she's like, shove them up your butt and hold your nose. Bike ramps and junk drawers, bruh. Like, we had those. Like, we made bike ramps, like, literally out of fucking anything. Like, socks, cans. We used to, okay, you know what we love to do? We love to put fireworks inside a light pole or inside a mailbox. And, you know, like, for most of the 80s, bottle rockets were still fucking legal. I don't remember eating during the day in the summertime. No, just didn't eat. I make a terrible wife, but I do know how to set a fucking table. We all watched the 6 astronauts or 7 astronauts literally like blow up in their spaceship on the way to space. None of us were sad. We would rent Faces of Death and Traces of Death like regularly. Like those are probably 2 of the most fucking rented movies in any 80s VHS store. Seriously, like who doesn't want to see that politician just blow his fucking brains out? And who doesn't want to see a man literally get quartered by horses? Like who the fuck doesn't want to see that shit? Hashtag Skinamax. After 10:30, bitch. Okay, so we had cable boxes that like if you weren't like a gazillionaire, like most of the channels would just be like the picture all chopped up, just. But every now and then, if you got on there and you got it just right, you could see titties. But yet, I mean, it took a while, but yeah. So when you do the hokey pokey, you've got to turn yourself around because that's what it's all about. Okay, here's just some random proof that that Gen Xers were actually like fucked up like a napkin at a barbecue. My class had 13 fucking valedictorians. Daddy issues much? And probably half of those kids' parents didn't even come to graduation. I know mine didn't fucking want to come, but my stepmom was a teacher at the high school, so like anything that came off, not smoking in her room, she was still gonna smoke in her room. But anything else that like came off where she just looked like some kind of bad person, oh yeah, no, couldn't happen. My grandma used to she lived with us. She moved in when I was in the 3rd grade, and she never moved out. But until she had a stroke, and they immediately put her in a fucking nursing home. Anyway, she loved me a lot, and I loved her the most. And she lived in the back of the house in a room off the kitchen, and so I would always be in her room, and she would always tell me how beautiful I was. And as soon as I would leave, my stepmom would be in the kitchen making her nightly dinner. Literally, a hamburger patty, no salt. They didn't buy salt. Some minute rice and a pat of butter on the minute rice. And anyway, I would come out of Mimi's room, and she would stop me, and she would go, Sarah, you are a cute girl, but you're not beautiful, and you never will be. Both of my parents that raised me, the dad and the stepmom, which I haven't spoken to in 12 years. Gen X is really good at cutting people off. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. They were hoarders. They were hoarders to, like next level hoarders. And it was before hoarders were even known about or cool. And we lived literally on one of the most traversed streets in my town, my city. And everybody knew where we lived. And so it would be nothing for one of my friends to stop by. And I swear to God, I would catch him at the door. I would open the door like a crack. And I'd be like, you can't come in. We have a dog. And that was my life. You can't come in. I have a dog. But my little fucking asshole ass, no good fucking getting dressed by mom every morning little sister who was born in 1982, she would just let anybody in. She would just let them just come in the house and see it. And every time it would happen, I would just be like, PTSD? Okay, does anybody else remember how 80's moms went through this bird phase where they all just had to have super fucking expensive tropical birds in their living room?